Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday. And on the menu for this Saturday, we have Valkyrius Prime, an indie shoot 'em up that recently released on Steam. What kind of taste will this indie have? Let's get cooking and find out! We're going to go ahead and jump right into the mission mode for today. We do have the option to go and play it single player or multiplayer, and you can go and set your difficulty. There are 5 difficulty levels, but at this point I've only unlocked I haven't unlocked any of the additional difficulty levels. I just have easy through hard. For today's purpose, I'll just keep it on easy. After we press start, we can select our ship's color. There are 4 colors that are available from the default, and you can unlock additional colors as you play the game. We're going to go with the chef's favorite color today, green. After you've selected your color, if you've purchased any module upgrades or weapon upgrades, here is where you can equip them. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to equip the diamond armor, just to help out a little bit throughout the course of my playthrough. And then you have the ability to configure your left weapon and your right weapon with any that you've purchased up in the upgrade menu. I'll leave both of those at default and confirm build. We get a little bit of a tutorial in the game itself before we start, the controls for the keyboard, the controls on a gamepad, and then how to play.
Valkyrius, Stage 1, all systems go.
And we launch. So Valkyrius is a standard classic style vertical scrolling shoot 'em up with some fun elements added to it. First off, you might notice I have a green reticule around the ship. That's actually my teleportation range. You have the ability to teleport in any of the 4 cardinal directions. Maybe cardinal's not the right word for it, but anyway, up, down, and left and right. And the green circle around the ship indicates the range you can teleport. It's possible to extend that range from small to large, depending on the situation. One is more appropriate than the other. In addition to that, we have, of course, the guns on both the left and the right side of the ship. And as we progress through the game defeating enemies, you might notice that there are some power-ups that they drop. We can pick up these power-ups and use them. What's a good way to describe it? So the weapon system seems inspired by the title Einhander, if you're familiar with that one. Where the weapons you pick up are essentially act as gun pods, and they have a set amount of ammunition. You can go and carry one on each side of the ship, and it is possible to stack ammunition if you continue to pick up the same gun pod with the same side of the ship. At least that's been my experience. So as we get to the second stage, I'll try and go over some of those gun pods. But while we're here at the boss fight, let me go and talk a little bit about the boss fights. So I love the teleportation mechanic in this game. It's a lot of fun to use, and it especially comes into play with the boss fights themselves. Here is a perfect example of that. So the boss ship is now descending through the atmosphere of the planet, and of course encountering the usual atmospheric interference you would get. So we have to stay within the cone that is creating for us, but the waves of bullets coming at us we wouldn't be able to normally dodge. so we teleport over them. I feel that's a beautiful boss fight and a beautiful way to use the mechanics. So with that, stage 1 is complete, and we move on to the second stage. There is a story to Valkyrius Prime, and it's basically the space colonies versus Earth. For the purpose of my video today, I chose to turn the story off, but it is interesting, if a little bit derivative of that type of story. So here, I'm picking up a missile pod and a cannon pod. You can see the values of ammunition on either side of my ship. And if we pick up the same pod on the same side, we can increase our ammunition for the weapon. There are a total of 6 different gun pods that we can pick up. The machine gun, the cannon, the spread, the missile, and the shockwave. Since the weapons do have a finite amount of ammunition to them, it's possible to, you might want to conserve your ammunition by not constantly firing. And that's another interesting feature that Valkyrius actually has, and that's the weapons are actually auto-fire, and the buttons for your weapons actually turn them on and off rather than hold to fire. You're pressing the fire button to both turn on and turn off your weapon. So given that the game has a teleportation function, that's actually handy, as you can focus more on your dodging and your teleporting rather than worrying about correctly firing at the right time. But it does make ammo conservation a little difficult overall. As there are times where I want to conserve ammunition, so I turn off the fire for a particular side of the ship, and then I forget to turn it back on when it would go and be helpful to me. Maybe it's not like that big of a problem, but every once in a while it seems like I'm wasting ammunition when I don't want to be, or I'm not actually dealing damage when I do want to be. Real quick, just going and covering some other features that I haven't gone over yet. There is a shield on your ship, and that shield can take 1 hit, so you're basically able to take 1 hit, and then if that shield is given enough time to regenerate, then you can take additional hits. But if you take damage while your shield is down, you'll lose a life. Which I actually really like that kind of a system, so that's definitely a plus in my mind. Another quick note about the scoring. If you'll notice in the top middle of the screen, there's a percentage gauge there. That's your basically score multiplier. Each time you defeat an enemy, that goes up 1%. But if you take a hit, it will drop down 25%. It does cap out at 200%. So that's our upper limit for score multiplier. Stage 2 complete.
Valkyrius Stage 3. All systems go.
So wrapping up my thoughts on Valkyrius Prime. So far, I've had a lot of fun with my time. I've played it all the way through to the final boss, but haven't quite defeated the final boss yet. The game itself comes with an upgrade system where you're awarded credits for your score at a percentage of roughly 1% of your score is converted to credits when you game over or clear the game. I'm assuming. And those credits you can use to buy additional colors for your ship, buy additional upgrades for your ship or additional weapon upgrades, and additional credits for continue. Real quick, I do want to say I love what they went and did with this section, dodging the various things as you descend into the shaft. So the minus flavors I would give to Valkyrius Prime would be, I feel like some of the art assets are just a little on the plain side. Some of the enemy ships look like they could use just a little bit more detail, and some of the backgrounds I feel the same about. Not really that big of a complaint. I would also appreciate, in the case of boss fights and mini boss fights like that one there, having a life meter would be helpful. But on the plus favors, the teleportation mechanic in the game is just fun to use. Every once in a while I misjudge where I'm jumping and will take damage, but overall it's just a blast to jump all over the place. And also the weapon pickup system is also just great. The weapons that you do pick up feel a lot of fun. It's great to go and pick up the missiles, the cannons. That's interesting. I wonder if the game is stuck in a loop. Anyway, it's great to pick up those weapon power-ups. So overall, I feel like Valkyrius Prime is a great title if you're a fan of vertical scrolling shoot-'em-ups. For the price that it's available on Steam, it's definitely worth it. Anyway, it looks like that'll wrap up this episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. Apparently I got stuck in an endless loop at the end, so that's a little bit of a problem. I hadn't encountered that before, but still, it's an interesting way to end things. I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me today for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and I hope to see you again next week.